Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to training. I am so grateful for all the work that you all have been doing. We have had an incredible 3 months. If you think about where we were on week one to where we are now, we have come so far. We have a long journey ahead of us, but we should all be very proud of what we've accomplished this far and of how we have made the residents feel in the past 3 months. I just want to tell you all thank you for the incredible work. I want to talk about three things today with you um, in preparation for the rest of this training today. So, the first thing I want to talk a little bit about is the mock survey and the state survey. We had a mock survey a couple of weeks ago, and some of you are new to the world of skilled nursing and a nursing home. So, I want to talk with you a little bit about what a state survey is. Second, I want to talk about some of the successes we have all experienced, more specifically, what you have shared with us regarding your house successes. And then finally, I want to talk about some of the goals that each of your houses have set in some various meetings that you all had a few weeks ago with the nurses, where the nurses had these yellow papers and filled out many of your comments of the goals and suggestions that you all have. So, first, let me start by talking about the state survey process. Once a year, every nursing home in the Commonwealth of Virginia receives a visit from the Department of Health. They send usually 3 state surveyors here to give us a review of how well we do in that snapshot of a 3-day time period when they visit us. They're looking at things like the environment, they're looking at the clinicals, they're looking at medication pass, they're doing chart reviews, they're inspecting our dining program, they're reviewing our training, they're reviewing our policies and procedures. In essence, they're looking at everything that we do as a facility. And then they give us a grade. The grade they're kind of punitive. So we get what's called a deficiency. So there's kind of different sections to deficiencies. There's A, B, and C, which are minor deficiencies. Then there's D, E, and F. These are potential harm to residents. It's if you continue this way, it may harm somebody. Then there's G, H, and I, which is actual harm to residents. And of course, we're going to completely avoid those because of the care that we all provide to the residents. When these mock surveyors came to do a pretend survey for us a couple of weeks ago, the purpose of that was to highlight some areas that we need to work on, and they helped us prioritize some areas. And if we don't work together as a team to work toward solving some of these big problems, then we're not going to be successful. So some of the things that the training is going to have a little bit later today is going to incorporate these big pieces. So one of the big concerns that these surveyors identified for us was resident safety in the kitchens. They observed some residents going in the kitchens unsupervised. They observed that some knife drawers were unlocked. They observed that the toasters and blenders are frequently plugged in, and if two of you are in a resident room and somebody gets confused and they wander in the kitchen and something bad happened, that's a risk to us. Another big section that they identified was infection control. They talked about infection control when staff are entering and exiting resident rooms. They talked about infection control and handling linens during the med pass, in wound treatments, in donning PPE in a resident's room that's on isolation. They talked about infection control issues that they saw in the kitchens where people didn't wash their hands for more than 5 seconds, or when people put on their gloves and then touch their hairnet. So a lot of things infection control is a mindset, and we all need to think about touching our pagers and touching our faces and interacting with residents. Don't forget that we have those great hand sanitizers just inside each resident room. Those are never used. They're still almost all full. We had a vendor come out and service them all last week, so they all should be working on the first. Sometimes it takes 2 tries, but those should be working. And if they're not working, please let somebody know so we can get them fixed. Um, Another area that they identified was general nursing procedures. Some of the nurses have already received training on some of these things, but oxygen storage is a big one. We should never have a canister sitting out unless it's in one of the little rollers or in a case on the resident's wheelchair. Um, they talked about catheter bag drainage. They talked about uh, they identified some problems with MedPass safety. So some of those pieces will be followed up at a later time. And then the fourth one is falls. We have had a huge increase in falls since we moved to this new building. To give you a sense, in the original building, we had about 2 falls on average a week, and now we're averaging about 5 falls a week. So there's been a dramatic increase in the number of falls and the frequency of repeated falls. This is due to a new environment. It's due to an increased number of square footage, and it's also due to the workload that you all have. That it's hard for you to do rounds. Um, so there's a lot of pieces to this, and we have to work together to continue to reduce the falls. In summary, we need to work together as a team, uh, which is the reason we're having all of this training today, is so that you know what all of our focuses need to be over the next coming months on resident safety, on infection control, on fall reduction, and on safe nursing practices. I want to turn to the second piece I want to talk with everybody about, and that is some of the successes that you all are saying that we're having in the small houses. I think this is important. Each of you sat down with a day shift nurse a few weeks ago and had quite a few different conversations. I wasn't present for any of those. I wanted you all to talk as a team to say, this is how we think we're succeeding. And the day shift nurse wrote notes from all the meetings with the day shift, evening shift, night shift staff. And we didn't get to capture all 126 voices, but we got a lot of voices that spoke at those meetings. And I want to just use some of the things that you all have said have been successes in the past 3 months, because we all and I want to turn to the last piece of my training for you all today, and that is the goals that you all have set together as houses, as well as some suggestions that we've heard from each of you. So first, the goals. In Willis, what I want to do is I want to remind each house of the goals that you set together, so you can be refreshed this week as you go about your day and interaction with each other to continue to work on these goals. Willis, their goal is to engage residents in activities. Shenandoah's goal is to maintain low falls. Meherrin's goal is to have more house meetings. Powell's goal is to do better rounds and reporting at change of shift. And I watched the change of shift from day shift to evening shift last week, and they are doing much better on that. Bluestone's goal is to do better with supply ordering in the kitchen and in resident rooms for the evening shift. And they also have a second goal to ensure that all their staff gets their scheduled breaks. James, their goal is to improve communication between shifts and improve their planning when they get new admissions. James House gets an admission about every 3 to 5 days. They're very busy learning new residents. And Rappahannock, their goal is a simple goal, but I love simple goals. Their goal is to keep the pagers on them at all times. So continue to work together on these goals that you have all have set together and I know you'll be able to say you'll have more successes as you work on these. Um, the last thing is everybody has talked with me, Charity, Kathy, each other, the nurses, about some suggestions that they have. And even on these papers that the nurses filled out, there was much repetition about three major concerns regarding time management. Number one is that the staff are having a difficulty taking breaks. Number two is that we need help in doing a deep clean of the resident bathrooms. And number three is probably the biggest, and we need help cooking in those kitchens because it's so complicated and there's so many interruptions. So let me talk about each one of those three things and what Goodwin House Alexandria is doing to support you. I just want to emphasize that we hear you, that the executive leadership team hears you, that the CEO hears you. Kathy Anderson thinks about each of you and the amazing work that you are all doing. So first of all, regarding the difficulty taking breaks, if for some reason you miss your break, please remember to fill out a missed break form, and we are required by state law to pay you. Second, the need for help in cleaning bathrooms. Over the last couple of weeks, the housekeeping director, Dennis Sighthammer, as well as Dave Baker, the administrator of operations, have been working with the housekeeping staff to put together a plan for how to use the two housekeepers we have assigned to us in a better way. You'll see me in a new environment because my phone died while I was doing that previous recording. Continuing on from what I was saying, the third final piece I want to follow up with everybody on is we have received permission from the executive leadership team to hire a cook per floor. We've already hired one named Jennifer Chapman, who is doing training on Wednesday of this week. We also have hired one care partner who has applied, and we've had one or two other care partners apply for this cook position, as well as somebody from the main kitchens who has applied. So we're hoping that by the end of September, we'll have the positions all full and everybody trained, and we'll have an additional resource on each floor of a cook. So this is very good news. A lot of people have been asking for this help. We've been using the third floor as a training ground for Ransford to figure out how this works. The most difficult meal of the day is breakfast, just because of the time management piece. So the cooks are going to be coming in for breakfast and lunch, and then what Ransford has been doing is preparing 2 or 3 sides and as much of the entree as he can. So it's going to be a real collaboration between the care partners and the cooks in making these kitchens successful. We're going to have more detailed training on this in the coming weeks. So care partners, please look out for another sign-up sheet to attend training for what the new cooking process is going to look like. So thank you everybody for everything you do. The residents are very grateful. I get compliments all the time from families and residents of the amazing care that you all provide. We have come so far in the last 3 months. We have a ways to go, but I just want to let you know again that we hear you. The executive leadership team hears you. Kathy, Charity, and I hear you. We want to make you successful. We're trying to give you the resources to do that. So thank you for everything you do.